I am so excited, honored, and thrilled to be hanging out with you here today, Tim.
Oh my goodness, that's amazing. Dan, thank you so much for being here. All right, today I'm here with Dan Emery, the founder of the New York City Guitar School, where I've had the immense pleasure of taking classes for the last 2 months while I'm here visiting. Dan, thank you so much for being here with me today, man.
Thank you so much for being here with me. Thank you for inviting me to have this conversation. I feel extremely honored. I know you talked to lots of amazing people, and it feels pretty cool that you've had a good experience here and that you were interested in talking to me.
I think I'm blessed that I'm always coming across interesting people, and for me, I don't take that for granted, and I appreciate the fact that you are here with me today just to share your story, because like everyone else out there, I'm curious, right? I'm curious to know about your story, your journey of how you started this school, because I'll be honest, right? I'm here visiting. I've been here for the last 2.5 months, and learning how to play the guitar has been a 30-year project for me. In my teens, I grew up listening to Metallica and Scorpions and Bon Jovi, and rock music is something that I can go to sleep with. And I told myself, I want to rock out. I want to be a rock star. Never really learned, At first, it was like, I'll get to it. Then life gets in the way. And it's been a 30-year project. Along the way, it also became very intimidating.
Yeah.
To pick up a guitar.
Yeah.
But being here, I told myself, I'm going to get it done this time. Did a bunch of research, and research meaning I went to Google. I just Googled guitar schools. Yep. New York City Guitar School popped up. I was like, sounds legit enough. New York City Guitar School. But the moment I walked in, there was something different about this school. Yeah. So, and that's really what I want to talk to you about today. So, what's your story, Dan?
Oh my gosh. Well, what's anybody's story? I come from a place, it's like in Star Wars. It's a galaxy far, far away, long, long ago. I'm 55 years old. I grew up homeschooled in Idaho. And then crazy stuff happened, like it happens to a lot of people. My dad got sick. He couldn't walk. He couldn't work. My family became homeless. I was living in a car. Then I was living with my grandma, and so for me, the story of this school really begins with that feeling of being like desperate and hungry and wanting something more and feeling insufficient and feeling insignificant and just wishing I could have a solid place and wishing I could be somebody. So for me, it was sports in high school. I went into public schools in 8th grade. Wow, what a shock to the system to go from homeschool to school in 8th grade, and I wanted that significance, and at first I found it through sports, and sports was what taught me to practice first. So. You work hard and you get better. You work hard and you get better. It was like a miracle. You work hard and you get better. And also what you do on the field, it doesn't matter what else is going on. It only matters, what you do on the field. And then my dream became to play college football. Okay. Now, you're from Singapore. I don't even know if you know about what high school football is out there in America, but it's a big deal.
About 10, 15 years ago, no, but these days, because we have a lot of expat Americans living in Singapore, it's become a big deal. Like the last Super Bowl, bars were open at 7 a.m.
Oh my gosh.
Because it was packed. It was full. You had to buy tickets to go to Hard Rock Cafe or any other bar in Singapore to have a pint first thing in the morning and watch the Super Bowl. So now I think we know.
So this was my dream, and I walked onto the football team at the University of Idaho. I got cut. But then my sophomore year, I made the team, and I was on the team for a couple of years. But I like to say I was small and I was slow, but I was also uncoordinated. I really had no business in Division I football. And when I was a junior in college, I really had this moment where I was like, oh, I'm actually not going to be a football star. That's no matter how hard, that's tough. Because if your whole thing is, if I work hard, good things are going to happen. Yeah. That moment when you're like, oh, you know what? This might not be my path. I might not have success, but I loved it so much, and it had been my identity for so long. So I went through this moment of an intense crisis of what am I going to do? And the track guys for a couple of years, every time I walked through it, as football players, we had these giant lockers and this big part of the locker room, and then you'd walk past the track and the cross country guys, and they'd have these little lockers, but every time I walked past, they'd say, Dan, you belong with us. And I'd be like, no, I'm a football player. And they'd be like, no, you belong with us. So there was this one just intense, very intense month when I realized, oh, no matter how hard I work at football, no matter how hard I work, and even now it hurts me to say this because I believe in hard work. I believe if you dream it, you can be it. But it's like, okay, I bulked up to 155 pounds, and I'm one of the slowest defensive backs on the team. And if I want to get I really wanted my letter. I wanted my letter. If I'm going to get my letter, it might not happen in football. What am I going to do? So it was this terrible moment for me. This is what I'd aimed. I came out of that experience of poverty and homelessness as a kid, and I thought that my path was going to be sports, was going to be football, and I was a football player. But what was I going to be if I wasn't a football player?
That's a question.
So you probably didn't expect to hear about football when you asked the guy with the guitar school, but I, in this one crazy 2-week period, I talked it over with my football coach. I quit football. I joined the track team, and I started playing guitar. And why did I start playing guitar? Because I still, my total love for music actually came later. I was still trying to fill that void. I still wanted to be somebody. I still wanted to have significance, and I still wanted to be on a path where I could progress. So the very first day I picked up a guitar, I played for an hour, and I said, I'm going to practice an hour a day. And it was over 365 days before I practiced for less than an hour. And some days I practiced for 8 hours. So that was my first year of guitar playing. I was 20, and it was 1 to 8 hours of practice a day for 365 days.
Wow.
I didn't know how to practice. I didn't have a good plan, but you know what? All that energy that I had been putting into football, I put into guitar, and I did make the track and cross country team, and I did finally get my letter, so I could wear my letter jacket.
There you go.
But yeah, that's where my guitar journey began.
Amazing.
As a 20-year-old, looking for significance.
Wow.
And I thought, well, you know what? If I can't be on the football field, maybe I can be on the stage.
Yep. Amazing. Was it hard then for you to take that step, to give up on your dreams of being a football player?
It was hard to give up on that set of dreams, but it wasn't as hard as giving up on my next set of dreams.
Okay.
Because after I had my eyes set from the age of, 14 to 20 on being a football player, my dream switched, and my new dream was to be a rock star. I wanted to be a rock star. And I went to New York City, and first of all, if there's any young people out there, if you get to be like me and look back, whether you succeed or fail, if you get to look back and think, you know what, I gave it my all, that feels really good, even if it didn't. So I have terrible news to report. I never became a rock star. I hit New York City. I played in so many bands. I played in so many shows. I worked so hard. We were signed to an indie label. We did put out a couple of records. In many ways, there was a club called CBGB's that was really famous at the time. And when I hit New York City, my dream was, I'm going to play a Saturday at CBGB's. So my dream came true. I played back-to-back Saturdays at CBGB's in front of packed crowds, and it really was amazing. It really felt good. And I played hundreds of shows, thousands of shows over the years. And it felt amazing to be in it like that. But we were never signed to a major label. We never achieved that wider success. But I gotta tell you, when I look back, I definitely could have done things smarter. Oh my gosh, I could have done things smarter.
We all could have, right? If we look back, yeah.
But I could not have worked harder. And that feeling that I have right now, 55 years old, looking back on myself in my 20s, that's a great feeling. I'm like, you know what? I gave it my all.
Yeah.
I feel great about that. My memories of that time are so good because I really was giving it my all.
I think that's the big difference, right? Because, hey, yes, I think we've all grown up with this idea and this notion that, if you work really hard, you can be successful. And like you, I too believe in that. But I think I've also come to this stage in life where I'm 45, and we have all gone through our ups and downs, right? That, hey, you know what? You can work hard, but not everything may work out the way you want it.
Yeah.
But that's not the end of the world, right? There may be something else, but as long as you look back, like you said, and you know for a fact you gave it your all, and there was nothing more you could give, then, hey, you know what? That itself is success. Yeah.
Absolutely, and I feel, if you've got that goal, that worthy ideal, and you're reaching for it. That's the success. That's the success right there. Yeah. Because how many people, and I've done this myself. You reach a goal, you're like, and then you reach it, and you're like, I don't feel that great. The goal is important. The goal is really important, I think, because it helps you become the kind of person who's going to reach that goal. And then the goal itself, it's so much in our own control, but it's also, as Queen would say, it's also in the lap of the gods, right? So the actual outcome is it's a team effort between the universe and you, and you don't get to control it entirely. But oh my gosh, you do get to control a lot. Sometimes it's really hard to control your attitude and your actions, but yeah, that feels good. But yeah, so my big crisis, the big dream, man, I believe I was a great, I believe, Jit, I believe I am a great songwriter.
Oh yeah.
And I wrote hundreds of songs, and I recorded a bunch of them, and I played in a couple bands that I'm really proud of what we did. Yeah. And we did get signed to an indie label, which was really cool. And when I was 28 or 29 years old, something like that, I played 70 shows that year.
Wow.
And I remember thinking, okay, I really need to play 100 shows a year. To really cross over, I need to be playing 100 shows a year. And then I found out something really exciting, but unplanned, unexpected. Do you have an idea what that might be?
I don't know. I've got a few things in my mind. One thing that pops up is you had a kid.
That's
there
it.
There you go.
I found out I was going to be a dad.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, well, I can continue this rock and roll dream. And I know if I keep doing what I'm doing, the only way for, my view was I need to be gone at least 100 nights a year and maybe more. And in return for that, I'm going to make money, more money than 95% of the guitarists in New York City, but way less than enough to support a family.
Yep.
So this was another big moment for me, and one thing I feel great about is I was like, I want to be a dad. I want to be a good dad. I want to be around.
It's all about choices, right?
Yeah, but even though I made that choice on purpose,
Yep.
it was still very hard to
can
say,
imagine.
I'm going to turn the page on this stream. And you know what? I've known so many people that I played with years ago who stayed with the dream and didn't turn the page. And in many cases that's okay, but in some cases it's I don't know. It's kind of it's sad, right?
Yep.
So for me, there was this immense sense of loss because I was like, okay, I'd only been pointed at two things in my life. First was a football player. In a sense, I failed at that. I mean, I worked hard, but I failed. And then I wanted to be a rock star, and I failed. I failed at that. I knew. By the way, I knew so many people who had been signed to major labels and had gotten that great tour, and they were still totally broke, and they still couldn't support a family. And so yeah, that was really hard, and there was this period of loss, and I thought, okay, I need to decide what I'm going to do to make a living. And this is what I thought. I thought, okay, while I figure out what I'm going to do with my life, I'm going to teach some guitar lessons.
Makes sense. You're good at it. Yeah, you have that skill. It's transferable. Yeah.
So there I was. I was like, this is the thing I'm just going to kind of do for a little while until I get on with my life. And what I found out was, well, first of all, I found out that there were so many exciting, there were so many things that I loved about it. One thing I loved about it is I found out that I really, really loved to teach guitar. And I went through this transition period because for a while I was bored teaching beginners. I was like, time to teach a D chord again. Oh man. But then it didn't happen in one moment, but gradually I realized, oh my gosh, every student is a little different. Teaching the D chord to Jit is totally different from teaching it to John or Sally. And everyone's got different fingers and they're coming from a different place and they learn at a different level and they need to, and I really got interested I went from being bored teaching the same old chord to feeling like it was endless depths of exploration teaching the same thing. It was like bigger on the inside than it was on the outside. So that's one thing that happened to me is I really got excitement and pleasure. And then also I was getting these responses from students that they really, really seem to enjoy.
Yep, I know. I can testify to that, and I'll talk about that a little bit. But yeah, I can see why students collectively feel that way because that's the same way I feel too, having taken lessons here for 2 months.
And I haven't taught you personally, no. but yeah, that was the beginning of thinking, what is a good way of teaching? What is, so maybe I'll talk about that in a moment because the other thing that I found in teaching guitar is, well, so there were some dark moments, right? Because I'd given up on my dream, right? I had made a choice.
Yep.
Thankfully, I did make a choice. So I did feel it was a choice, but it was a hard choice to make.
Absolutely.
And I remember it was like a rainy, cold New York City night. I taught lessons in people's houses. I went door to door and I had this heavy guitar case and there was a gap in time between lessons and it was cold and I was hungry and I didn't have a place to go, so I went into a used bookstore and I picked up a book. And the book was 10 Greatest Salespeople. Like, why would I pick up a book like that, right? And I started reading through it, and it was story. Every story was a story of someone who had decided for themselves, hey, I'm gonna make this life into the life that I want it to be. And I found it super inspiring. So that was my very first self-help book, actually.
Wow.
That was and it was like, I was like, oh, there are people who are thinking about this. There are people who feel the way I feel, and they actually have thought about how to take action. So that book, and it was like, it was one of those books that the back of it was peeling off and the pages were falling out. But I got that book and I devoured it, and that was, and then I was like, oh my gosh, I want to read more books like these. And they really were like a lifeline in this time when I was feeling so much pressure to be a good dad, to deliver. My son hadn't even been born at the time, but I was already like it's coming, man. I gotta get ready for this. And so then I picked up a book. So I was like, okay, so I'm teaching guitar lessons.
Yeah.
And I picked up a book called Guerrilla Marketing.
Oh, I know that book.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
by J.
I know
Conrad
that.
Levison.
Yeah.
And this is one of the biggest lessons I've learned. Why would I try to figure out how to market from scratch? There's someone else who already has thought about it.
Yeah.
They've spent their entire life.
Exactly, right?
So I took this book and I did everything in the book exactly. Like I'm telling you exactly. I didn't deviate from anything. Yeah. So I was like, okay, I need a marketing arsenal. These are my 10 things. I need a marketing calendar. I'm gonna put up flyers. I put up flyers on bus stops and bulletin boards. Every day I'm gonna put up 20 flyers. This is my flyer route. Every day I took out a classified ad in the Village Voice. This is another tool. I did everything exactly, and I got really excited about it because it was kind of fun to follow this process, and then you would get results too. And I remember this was really a fun thing. I remember telling my wife, okay, when I am teaching 5 lessons a week, I'm going to take you out for lunch, which was probably like a piece of pizza, right? Yep. And then I said, when I am teaching 10 lessons a week, I'm going to take you out. And when I'm taking 15, and I would get these calls, and just like Guerrilla Marketing said, I would track. Like, I found out if you call back within 24 hours, the student will book. After 48 hours, they don't want to take guitar lessons. They want to take jiu-jitsu, right? So you got to do it fast. Yeah. So I kept track, just like the book said. Yeah. And then I took my wife out for lunch at 15, and then I took her out for dinner when I hit 20 lessons, and then I took her out at 25, and then I took her out at 30, then I took her out at 35, and then I took her out when I hit 40 lessons. Yep. And then she said, Dan, 40 lessons is enough. Don't teach, you're teaching too much. Yeah. So then, at 40 lessons, 2 kind of crazy things happened. So first of all, teaching 40 lessons, I was now making a decent living. I was making a living with a guitar, and I was doing something that I love to do. I love to teach guitar. And this whole time I'd also been writing lesson plans and trying to figure out better and better ways to teach people how to play guitar. But then at 40, I had built this marketing system. Really, that's what it was. It was a marketing system. I had my marketing tools and my marketing calendar, and people kept calling. But because people were enjoying the lessons, there were no more spots, because my wife said, Dan, please don't teach more than 40 lessons a week. Yeah. So what was I going to do with the 41st call? And I did 2 things. The first thing I did is I got a call from someone. This was a guy who had just sold a biotech company. Yeah. And this was, I taught 40, my lessons at the time were $40 each. And the guy said, I heard you're a really good guitar teacher. You know, my so-and-so told me you're a great guitar teacher. I want you to teach guitar lessons for my teenage son.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm sorry, sir. I'm teaching 40 lessons. I can't teach another lesson. And he said, how much do you charge?
Yeah.
And I said, well, I charge $40, but it doesn't matter because I can't teach any more lessons. I have 40 lessons a week. And I remember he said, I'll pay you 80. And I said, I'm sorry, I can't do that. And he said, I'll pay you 100. And I said, I just can't do it. And he said, $150 a lesson. And I said, I can't do it, but I'll tell you what, I'll talk things over with my wife. And I went home and I thought my wife would be so excited because I had shown her that no matter what, I would keep my word and I would not teach more than 40 lessons. And I said, honey, you're not going to believe this. Someone asked me to teach his son for $150 a lesson, but I said no because I wanted to keep my promise to you. And she said, what, are you crazy? Call that guy back. So that's one lesson that I learned is when you are very busy, that 40th lesson, your last lesson, you can charge whatever you want for it because you don't need it. So that's one thing I did. Is I just raised my rates for new students. And then the other thing I did is I started to hire my friends and teach them to teach guitar lessons the way that I had been. And that's really how the school was born. There was no master plan to make a guitar school. What there was I was having a lot of fun teaching guitar, and I had built a marketing system where people kept coming beyond the number of people that I could teach by myself. So that's it, Jit. That's the background story of the school.
That's amazing, Dan. I mean, just listening to all that you have shared, right? You know, people have said I talk a lot, you know, and I think I do, but with you, I just want to listen. You know, I really do, because I just find it so inspiring. But at the same time, right, a lot of the things that you say, I find it relatable. You know, our stories are not exactly the same, and I think each and every one of us have our own walks of life. But I think those who have gone through life, you know, and had their ups and downs can really relate to what you're saying. So a few things I picked up when you was talking just now. One, the value of reading. I think that's amazing. You know, why reinvent the wheel and try to figure everything out from scratch when someone's already done it? Just follow, right?
Yeah.
Before you innovate, at the very least, follow what's already working. But the other thing I think I picked up when you said just now was this idea that you set little goals for yourself, and that goal was tied to taking your wife out. You know?
Yeah.
You know, most times we and there's nothing wrong with this, where people set monetary goals, like, you know, I want to make X amount of money this week, you know. But after a while, for me at least, I feel like, you know, money, it's a nice to have, but it really doesn't excite me. But this idea of, you know what, if I get my 5 classes, I'm going to take my wife out for dinner. You know, this kind of goals that is tied, you know, to the money that you make, I think it's amazing. And I loved what you said about that. What do you think, or where did this idea or this thought, this philosophy within you of you know what, if something is not working, you know, I'm just going to find something new. I'm going to pivot. I'm not going to stay down. You know, where do you think this came about for you?
One of the pivotal experiences of my life was when I was 13 years old. I was in Boy Scouts, and man, that was a crazy time. That was a crazy time. I remember eating food with bugs in it, for example, and I was like, there are bugs in this food, but I'm hungry. I'm going to eat it anyway. And listen, my parents, there were 7 kids in my family. Everyone was doing the best they could, but man, it was a terrible time. It wasn't that fun. And but I was in Boy Scouts, and the Boy Scout troop had this really great program called Scout Accounts. And the way the Scout Accounts worked is that is that it's the only way you could have money for, you weren't supposed to bring money on camping trips.
Yep.
You had to use money from your scout account. And there were two ways to get money in the scout account. A parent could put money in your scout account, but for the poor kids, there were all these projects that the troop did, and any money that was earned, it went into your own scout account. So there was this big trip coming up, and it was to go. It was a crazy trip. It was to go camp out in this windswept plain, and then to fly in a glider up in the sky, to be towed up in a glider with a pilot, and then to glide back down to earth. And it was an expensive trip. So there had to be a few $100 in your scout account, right?
Yep.
So in order to fundraise for this, the troop did a door-to-door cheese and sausage sale. And man, I wanted to go on this thing so bad. I wanted to go on it so bad. And there was a path to do it because of this program of this wonderful scoutmaster who wanted to make a way for everybody. And so I went out and I sold more cheese and sausage, door to door, knocking on doors. This is a long time ago. So people had to like write checks by hand, and I had to come back and deliver the stuff later. And I knocked on so many doors. I got chased by dogs. I got invited into weird living rooms where I was like, I need to get out of here fast. I had like 3-hour conversations with old ladies who just wanted to talk to somebody. And I just kept knocking on doors again and again. And it gave me something to do too, because I got to leave the house, And let me tell you, that trip felt so good. I earned that trip myself, and it felt so good. So where did I learn to pick? I don't know. I've been knocked down so many times. I mean, look, we're just scratching the surface, just like in your life. I mean, there's... like for all of us, I mean, we've all been kicked and bruised and battered, and I had my share, but what I found, and this is something I can say, like I can look back and say I gave my best. I can look back and say I've been beaten so many times. At the end of the day, I've laid down just beaten and broken, but I always knew every time I was like, tomorrow's another day. Tomorrow's another day. So that's, and it's true. They say that sleep is a bridge from despair to hope, and so I always felt like, you know what? I've given up lots of times for the day. I've been like, okay, I'm laying down to sleep. I am beaten. I lost today. But tomorrow's a new day.
There you go. I love that. I love what you just said. Sleep is a bridge between despair and hope. And yeah, every day is a brand new day, right? The sun will rise, skies will clear up, and we truly only fail when we give up. Yeah, amazing. Dan, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the school that you've built, right? Because like I said, the moment I walked into the school 2 months ago, I knew something was very different about this school. Just the energy, the vibes, everything was a little different. And as I started attending classes, for someone who is, picked up a guitar when I was 17 and 18 to have a nice photo op, and that's it. One photo, and then just strumming a little bit, never learned a single chord. And then coming back 30 years later to really learn where I don't know anything. And after 2 months, I feel I know at least 8 chords, all right? Hey, you know what? I think I know more. I just went for a last lesson. I think I know 10 chords, all right? Do I play these chords well? Not yet, because I'm still practicing. But hey, this is 10 chords more than I knew, and it's under 2 months. So I think there is a philosophy behind the school, how you have set up from the curriculum to the vibes, the energy, right? So what is the philosophy behind this school? Because to me, I think this is more than just a guitar school.
I'm so glad you feel this way. And the first time we talked, you mentioned that, not knowing anything about the philosophy that underlies the school, the philosophy that we talk about all the time as teachers here. So again, this kind of comes back to my deep yearning, my desire to be more than I am, to step into the person that I could be. And so when I was very quickly, when I was teaching guitar, I realized, oh, this is not about learning a chord for this person. This is about them stepping into the person they want to be, stepping, connecting with music, connecting with something they love, or fulfilling this identity as a musician that they feel within themselves. But it's like a chrysalis, they're like in the cocoon, but they can feel this other self. So when I started the school, at the very beginning, I said the mission, I said we'd have a mission, and the mission was coaching personal greatness. And when I started the school, me and a friend built the first walls of our first location by ourselves. We were putting up the frames and the drywall, and I mean, it was bare bones, and people would say, so you're starting a guitar school? And I would say, yes, and our mission is coaching personal greatness. And everybody would say, that's a dumb mission for a guitar school. And even people who really wanted the best for me would say things like, don't you think you should just teach people how to play guitar? I mean, that's what they want. Yeah. And I thought, and I did have some self-doubt at the beginning, but I thought, no. People don't want to learn guitar. People want to be the person they want to be through guitar. Yep. Guitar is the medium. And over again, I would tell our teachers, we do not teach guitar. We do not teach guitar. We teach people. We don't teach guitar. We teach people. And so we refined this mission into coaching personal greatness, because I believe that's what we're doing. One lesson at a time. One lesson at a time. And all of those words are really important. Personal greatness, I can't make you great. Only you can make you great. Only you can step into that. So I can coach you. I can coach our students, but I can't be great for them. So that's why the coaching is in there. Coaching greatness, what kind of greatness? It's the greatness of that individual student who comes to our school. Their greatness, whatever that means for them. And how do you do it? One lesson at a time. You got to break it down super tiny. The only way you can be great is one little step at a time. Greatness is something that you look back at over 5 years and you're like, oh, that was kind of great, right? So that personal greatness, it's like very, very granular. It has to happen a little tiny bit at a time. So every time we hire people, we hire based around this. We hire based around our values. Our values are honesty, under promise, over deliver, under promise, over deliver. Hustle. Good things come to those who wait. I think Lincoln said this, but only the things left by those who hustle. And also, I was taught that the values should really resonate. Man, I'm going to hustle. I love it when other people hustle. Anybody on our team, I just can't imagine someone not hustling. Relentless improvement, this feeling that we're imperfect at all times. No matter how well I teach a lesson, no matter how good our curriculum is, it is still broken. There's still room for improvement. And I've noticed the very best teachers are the ones who say, oh, how did you do this? They don't think they know how to teach yet. They're interested in learning how to teach better.
They're learners themselves.
And being people-centered. Looking, when someone walks through the door, remembering that they're a human being first.
Yep.
They're a human being. And so, for example, on our sales sheet, it says never, ever sell based on price.
Yep.
Sell based on the needs of the student, the needs of the person. And what happened is, and so we have a crazy hiring process. We have no community music school in America, to my knowledge, has as many steps, as many interviewers, as much time in the interviewing process. And then we have a whole 90-day training process full of observations and mentor teachers and taking classes on our philosophy. And it's because we want to be aligned with what we're trying to do. And then people have room to be their own self within that. And so, I had this crazy mission, coaching personal greatness one lesson at a time. And yes, people said that's a crazy mission. But, we hit $3 million in revenue. We are one of the largest music schools, independent music schools in America. And why? We didn't try to be any of that. We tried to coach personal greatness one lesson at a time. And it makes sense because people feel that. People want that. And listen, we're imperfect. I just told you we're imperfect. We don't succeed for every student. We don't always deliver, but we're total, our team is totally aligned. I can tell you, our team of 50 or so, every single person believes in those values, and every single person is trying to deliver that personal greatness for their students.
And I think that's amazing because now I know what I felt from that very first time I walked in through the classes. It was just that it was this supportive environment where everyone was collectively just focused on making me better, coaching me to personal greatness. I mean, I didn't know the philosophy behind that. But that's the thing, right? You can feel it, and that means you did well. You did well. I really, and thank you for that. Honestly, it's been a great 2 months, being here. It's one of the things that I'm actually a little sad about because I'm leaving back, to Singapore in less than a week. I mean, I still am going to take classes with you guys, but I'll do it online. But it's just something about walking into the building and seeing all the supportive people around.
It's pretty fun. It is pretty fun, yeah. And I mean, thank you so much for coming.
No,
it's literally a dream come true.
Yeah, I believe
to have you come from Singapore, visit New York, and then become part of this community for a couple months.
I've always believed that I think we all come into each other's lives for a reason. There's no coincidences. It's no like, it just happened out of the blue, random. I think we do attract what we project. And I think there is a reason why I stepped into this school amongst all the other schools, because there was something you're doing right that attracted me. And I think we could resonate with that. Right? I love the fact that on top of teaching guitar lessons, you guys do a lot of other events as well. It's not just, okay, you know what, you've paid for guitar lessons, come for the guitar lessons, all right, off you go, come back next week. You've got the rock band events that happen. The mass appeal, I'm so honored, and it's such a privilege that it happened while I was here, where we were at Union Square. What was it? You had like 100 over people?
Something like that.
Yeah, it was so amazing with 100 over people jamming at Union Square. And I went home and I told a couple of friends this. I was like, I have delivered speeches to 1,000 people, all right? More than once. And I've done so many speeches over the years. But what I felt that day at Union Square, being this absolute beginner at playing a guitar, but still jamming with 100 over people, what I felt that day, nothing comes close to it. Nothing comes close to it.
I'm so glad to hear that. And I remember looking at the end of the event. I was standing over on the edge and I was looking at all the people, and I can't believe how many goofy smiles I saw. So many people looked blissed out and happy, and it made me feel so good.
Yeah.
And it really is. I mean, come on, it's New York City. Random people are coming through. It was a heat wave. It was a beautiful, beautiful moment.
Yeah. But why is it that you do this as well? Is that part of the philosophy of personal greatness?
Yes. So part of we have this underlying philosophy, but then we have a whole teaching philosophy. One of the biggest influences on the teaching philosophy is a guy named John Wooden, who is a coach. He's a basketball coach, a long passed away, but an iconic basketball coach who was famous. He never told his players to win, ever. He would only concentrate on the elements of greatness, the elements that would help them be their best. And so for our students to be successful, one thing that's really important is they need to identify as guitar players. They need to be allowed and encouraged to not just see this as some other thing that they're doing, but actually as a part of who they are. And then again, what's this whole thing for? And if you want to be personally great, well, look, the research is actually pretty clear. Who you hang out with makes a really big difference. I was actually, I heard a stat a couple days ago that I just shared with my son, that kid I was talking about, who's now 23 years old. And I said, Elijah, did you know that they have done research, and for every happy person that you're close friends with, your chances of being happy yourself increase by 9%, and for every unhappy person that you're friends with, your chances of being unhappy increase by about the same. So I said, listen, don't worry about how successful the people are that you're hanging out with. Think about how it feels to be around them, and how you're making them feel, and how they're making you feel. And so community, building one of the best ways we can help our students step into that bigger version of themselves is by connecting them with each other so they can support each other in that. So yeah, we run about 50 events a year. We run a lot of events, and it is on purpose. We say, you know what? We're going to make this, and it's interesting because it's really hard to make a ... connection between the marketing expense of running these events and the outcome, but the feeling is definite. Like, there's no doubt. It's fun to run these events. So yeah, we run tons of events. You were at the rock band.
I was at the rock band
showcase.
event. I was at the Mass Appeal, and it was amazing. And I'll tell you why. For me, it was amazing. Right, the rock band event with the guitar ensembles going on, where students are taking stage, and doing an ensemble. For me, being an absolute beginner, just learning, I look at them and I'm like, hey, they were once here.
They were once beginners.
And
yeah,
now they are
incredible.
there, and they are putting on this absolutely amazing ensemble. And I'm like, it's achievable. Right?
Yeah. This reminds me of an early experience in music. In running music schools that I'll tell you about. I got the chance to talk to the owner of another music school. And she told me, she said, oh, it's New York. Listen, this is the secret to success. Everybody wants to be a performer, and you have to create an emotional dependence so that they feel like they need to take classes with you so they can successfully audition, and they're insecure without you. And I heard that, and I was like, no, that is not. And I'm glad I heard that, because that allowed me to make a choice. And I said, you know what? I'm going to make my students as independent as possible. I'm going to make it so they can leave. I'm going to make it so they have the confidence to go out on their own. That's what I want. So many of those bands go out on their own. Some of them have toured. They've gone to Europe. They've become totally legit bands on their own, and it makes me so happy. And guess what? People love seeing that path. They love saying, oh, here's the beginner classes, here are the ensembles, here are the lead guitar classes, here's the rock band program, and some of those people go off on their own. So again, this business is a much larger business, and has impacted a lot more students than the business that I just spoke of, even though they were much more established at the time
Yeah.
I first spoke. Why? Because people like that. People like feeling powerful. They want that. They respond to that. So yeah, there absolutely is a path, and the better job we do of saying, hey, you've got this. So here's a related thing. We always tell the students, go learn on YouTube.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to learn, go learn. Go take a class from somebody else. If you have a chance to learn, do it. Don't be limited. Our path is very, very step by step. It'll take you through step by step from beginner on. If you want to follow that path, great. If you want to learn more stuff, great. This is for you. And yeah, so students really respond to that.
Amazing. It's amazing. I mean, I felt it. And even the mass appeal event, right? It's a funny thing because here we are sitting on the stairs of Union Square, on the steps of Union Square, 100 over people playing.
Yep.
All right. So when
at 95 degrees.
Yeah, at 95 degrees, and random people coming because
Yeah.
it's New York City.
Yeah.
Like you said, people are coming in. You see, the whole idea before that, I was excited, but at the same time, it's like, damn, I'm so new. What am I doing here? You know, I'm going to mess up. You know, I don't even have my chords right here. I know where the chords are, but that doesn't mean they sound great. I'm still practicing. You know, I'm going to mess this up. I'm going to be the one that brings the show down. And that's the other thing with self-significance, right? Either we think we are that great that we are going to make this big impact in the world, or that we are so bad that we're going to mess everything up.
Yeah.
You know? And I was having all these thoughts, but then I was like, you know
Wow.
what? Let's just go and have fun. You know, I've been through this path before. You know, I don't know, sitting there, and I know, all right, midway through, my guitar is all out of tune. It's gone. My chords are not hitting well. You know, there's so much of muted strings, not by choice.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, but I'm thinking like I'm messing up, and then I look at everyone having a smile on their face around, and I'm like, hey, you know what? Let's just have that smile. Then I hear the guy behind me. He's playing equally as bad as me too. He's having fun. And what am I? You know, so I just decided, you know what? I'm just gonna have fun,
There you
and
go.
I played.
Good.
And the funny thing happened. Before this, I would practice at home in a room. I'll go somewhere quiet.
Yep.
You know. After sitting at the stairs of Union Square, guess where I did my practice yesterday?
In a park?
Close enough. I was at my brother's apartment building, sitting on the stairs where the kids are playing, people are walking by, and I'm like, you know what? I've already played on the stairs of Union Square. What's this steps? There's far lesser people looking at me. I don't give a damn.
Oh my gosh.
You know, so it was just amazing. I think that event brought out this confidence in me that, you know what, just practice.
You know, one thing I love about that story you just shared is it's illustrative of a really fundamental truth, which is, so you've had a lot of success. You've done a lot of things. You've gone through a lot of challenges and risen up. But no matter what you accomplish, there's always going to be the next thing that you feel uncomfortable about, and then you step through. So I love that. And one thing I love that, and I really feel this with music, is we talk about this all the time. Look, in this class, this person's learning to shred the Mixolydian scale. You know, maybe they're double tapping. And in this class, the person is learning their very first chord. But guess what? They're at the same exact level in comparison to themselves. They're brothers and sisters in guitar because they're just stepping through their own next threshold.
Yep. Dan, I can't believe it's been almost an hour.
Oh my
At
gosh!
least we are shooting an hour. I don't know what the final video is going to be, right? But I feel I can go on talking with you for at least a couple of more hours, you know. But having said that, you know, I don't want to take up too much of your time as well. So maybe a couple of rapid fire questions, all right?
Yes, sir.
Quick questions, you know. Looking back at your life now, all right, what do you think is the most important component towards mastery and success?
I think, well, I'm gonna say practice, because the way that you master anything, whether it's playing guitar or whether it's having the courage to go through that threshold again and again, it's to practice it, and it you know, there's a lot of different things that go into that, but I'll say, yeah, you got to get your rep one way or the other. You got to get your reps in.
You got to get your reps in. Right? What's next for you then? And what's next for the school?
So I am having a lot of fun with the school right now. And right now we're at 5 locations. And so next for the school is to take these things that we've built, the hiring methods, the teaching methods, the sales method, all of it.
Yeah.
And I think I think it's time for it to have a life without me. I want it to be able to go on without me being here. And that means handing off responsibilities and making sure that that if I'm not around, one way or the other, it can go on without me. And I guess that's related to what's next for me, which is I want to move more into. I love teaching guitar, but I want to teach. I want to teach, some of this stuff about how to run the business.
Amazing. We did a whole hour interview. All right, you're Dan from the New York City Guitar School, but I don't think we really talked about guitars. So let me end off with at least one guitar question. All right, is it hard to play the guitar, to make music with guitar?
So here's something I like to say about the guitar is, first of all, let's not kid around. It is hard to master the guitar. If you want to be really good at playing the guitar, well, look, people who are really good at playing guitar and have spent their entire lives playing guitar still have room for improvement. And right here at the school, it's interesting because in one room we might have one of the best classical guitar teachers in New York City, and in the next room it's one of the best heavy metal guitar teachers, and they could learn from each other, right? But the great thing about guitar is it's one of the easiest instruments to sound kind of okay on, and that's also pretty thrilling. So yeah, I would say if you want to get into learning an instrument, guitar is great for beginners. Look, you still got to put your work in, but yeah, you could do it. Anybody could learn enough on guitar to have fun for themselves and for their friends.
Yeah, perfect. All right. Dan, thank you so much for being here with me today. Thank you for having this conversation with me. You are very inspiring. The school is very inspiring. I've loved my time here. Dan and his team, they've got a lot of resources out there. And that's one of the other things that I love about the school and how you set it up, where it's all about value and adding value. There's so much of free resources, they've got the YouTube channel, they've got their website. Go and check it out. Pick up a guitar, learn a new skill if you have not tried. Trust me, it's a lot of fun. All right. Dan, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much. I'm honored and moved, and I appreciate you being a student, and I appreciate so much your feeling like I was worth talking to. So thank you so much.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Thanks, Dan.